Well, they tell us that readers are leaders, and so I've tried to build a habit of reading for an hour a day. Now, I don't always get there, but when I don't, I just try to catch it the next day. So in this video, I want to tell you my top 5 Christian books that I read in the year of 2021. So if you're looking for a good book for 2022, or maybe you just don't want to read and you just want to hear a quick 60-second summary of my top 5, that's what we're going to cover here in this video. Be sure to let me know in the comments what was your favorite book that you think that I should check out moving into 2022. I'm going to start with some honorable mentions, and then I'm going to do my top 5, starting with number 5. And if you hang out till the end, I want to tell you what my favorite book was that I read in 2021 that I want you to check out moving into 2022. Let's start with the honorable mention. So first, Leading with Emotional Courage by Peter Bregman. Now, Peter Bregman is my supervisor's favorite author, so don't tell him that this didn't make the top 5. It's only on my honorable mention list. Excellent book, How to Have Hard Conversations, Create Accountability, and Inspire Action on Your Most Important Work. Number 2, making the honorable mention, was Christopher Yuan's Holy Sexuality and the Gospel. Sex, Desire, and Relationships Shaped by God's Grand Story. This was an excellent read, mostly his testimony in there. Honorable mention number 3, Love God with All Your Mind by J.P. Moreland, The Role of Reason in the Life of a Soul. This book, he's arguing that Christians need to be educated. They need to spend time studying and being serious about their faith. Excellent book there. Another honorable mention would be The Coddling of the American Mind, How Good Intentions and Bad Ideas Are Setting Up a Generation for Failure. Now, I work full-time in ministry with college students, so a book like this was very helpful for me, as that's the generation that I'm working with, so that book also makes my honorable mention. Let's get into our top 5, and we are going to start here with number 5, which is Christian Coaching by Gary Collins, who sadly enough I heard just passed away. But if you are looking to change and transform the paradigm that you have for leadership and discipleship, let me challenge you to connect with the idea of Christian coaching. Subtitle here, Helping Others Turn Potential into Reality. So I took a coaching course this year, had a number of coaching resources that I was required to read for that. What are some of the differences for Christian coaching? Well, counseling tends to be backward looking. That's looking at somebody's past and trying to fix what's in the past and maybe some of the lies that they're believing and try to help propel them into right living, right thinking here in the present. Coaching takes a different tack. That is coming alongside somebody, it's forward looking, and the coachee, not the coach, is actually the expert. So the coach is helping that coachee figure out what are the goals that they have, what are the skills that they have, and how they want to best move forward. So a quote here from the book, a coach is someone trained and devoted to guiding others into increased competence, commitment, and confidence. One of the big takeaways for me on the realm of coaching was not trying to be the expert and tell those that I'm discipling what to do, rather using questions to figure out what they want to do, having them own their own accountability and action steps. They're much more likely to then put it into place. All right, let's jump into number 4 for my list was Emotionally Healthy Leader, How Transforming Your Inner Life Will Deeply Transform Your Church, Team, and the World by Peter Scazzerro. This was an excellent book. By this point, most of us have experienced having somebody in leadership who was not emotionally healthy. Perhaps they struggled to manage their emotions. They had an outburst of anger. They put too much on their plate. They had pride. They had all these other things that we're seeing. As we also see a lot of scandals erupt in the church where leaders reach beyond their emotional capacity and they have tremendous breakdown, or even they leave the faith. Well, having an emotionally healthy leader is critical. Healthy leaders can last and they can help sustain and maintain Christian communities. So here's a quote that I really liked from this book. It has become part of our default thinking that external markers of success are an indication that all must certainly be well at the leadership level. Here on this channel, I've covered a number of the scandals that we've seen throughout the church over the last few years, and it can be easy to see external fruit and say, hey, everything's got to be great, but deep underneath the surface, we can perform and still be emotionally unhealthy. This is the book that you would like, and speaking of things that you would like, can you like this video if you're getting value out of, I got books falling all over the place. If you're getting value out of, boy, books everywhere. just like the video, and I'll move on with the top 5 here. We're on to number 3. Okay, this is a Kindle book, so I don't have it to hold here for you. Here's what I'm always trying to find some Kindle deals. Number 3 is Confronting Injustice Without Compromising Truth, 12 Questions Christians Should Ask About Social Justice. Okay, you want to fight for justice. Justice is a biblical characteristic. God is all about justice. It's all throughout the scriptures, but perhaps you're confused by some of the lingo and some of the divisive things we're seeing in America in 2021. Well, Thaddeus Williams here in his book has done a great job of parsing out some of the terminology and trying to compare biblical justice to what we see in social justice in our world today. One of the things that I'm always curious about is the church to be parroting the same narrative that the atheistic culture is parroting on issues of justice? If that's the case, there's a pretty good chance that we have gone away from true biblical justice. So here's a quote here I liked from the book. The problem of injustice is a God-sized problem. If we don't start with Him first, whatever we are seeking, it ain't justice. I think this book would be phenomenal for an individual to read or for a small group discussion. He has discussion questions at the end of each chapter and a number of appendices. He's got things in the back that start with A, where he goes into even more detail. All right, let's get into number 2. Now, if you've been following this channel at all, it is a channel on sexual integrity. So you knew there were going to be some books about Christian sexual integrity. So number 2, The Great Sex Rescue by Sheila, Gregoire, The Lies You've Been Taught and How to Recover What God Intended. She does a phenomenal job in here breaking down biblical sexuality and even talking about some research and statistics and testimonials on married couples, and there's lots of advice for couples in developing their intimacy, advice for singles, and what are the lies that you've been taught in the purity culture? How can you break out of some of those and live in a way that honors God as singles in our day and age? I really loved her content on the issue of lust and confronting some of the lies that we see in the church. So here's a quote I liked from this book. Defeating lust is not about limiting a man's encounters with women. It's about empowering men to treat the women around them as whole people, daughters of Christ. She said that we often treat lust like alcoholism and that you just have to keep people who struggle with lust away from the objects of their lust, rather than teaching us to treat people as whole people, to love and serve them, people to be loved, not used. And on a channel like this where we talk about sexual integrity, we want to be moving in the direction where our lives are loving and serving others, not using them. All right, if you've made it this far, thank you so much, and it's time for me to tell you my number 1 book that I read in 2021 that I want to recommend. If you've been watching this channel at all, this is the book outside of the Bible that I have quoted the most this past year. This is Samuel Perry's Addicted to Lust: Pornography in the Lives of Conservative Protestants. So, researcher and professor Samuel Perry, who is not a Christian, studies religion and studied conservative Protestants and our response to pornography. So I found this book fascinating because he has all the research and statistics on how many Christians are struggling with pornography, what were the things that were helpful to get Christians out of pornography, and as a non-Christian, he has a very outside-the-box look at how we're addressing the issue of pornography and how culture has changed over the years in our perception of pornography. Now, I made an entire series out of this book. I did a video on each and every chapter because I thought it was that good. But here's a quote that I really liked from the book. This paradox that conservative Protestants both morally reject and regularly view pornography is in some ways an inevitable consequence for a subculture that repudiates the sexual mores of the dominant culture while simultaneously and quite intentionally refusing to disengage from that culture, particularly in terms of technology and media consumption. And so this brings me back to one of my takeaways from this book is that Christians in America are often living our lives exactly like those who don't claim the name of Jesus. If that is the case, it is no wonder that we are prone to and fall into issues of pornography and sexual sin and sexual addiction. So this was a fascinating book. Definitely recommend that you check it out. I'm going to link to the first video that I did in this series if you want to get more information in that. All the books I've mentioned are linked in the description, but let me know in the comments section. What was your favorite book of 2021? Do you have books recommended that I should check out as I try to continue to read for an hour a day moving into 2022? Well, this is Jason for Soulfire. Hope this video has been helpful. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll catch you in the next one.